stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have the roll call, please?
Certainly. Councilpersons Bear,
Here.
Dupre,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Salcido is absent,
He's been excused.
Zor,
Here.
Tobin,
Here.
and Mayor Higgins.
Here. Okay, as I said earlier, this is to interview the candidates for city manager. I am going to ask all city council members to please, in order to expediency here, we're going to go through any questions through the table so that we can get this through and get everybody out as much as we can. Because Council President couldn't make it tonight, he has some personal issues. We're going to ask Kerry to ask his questions so that we keep everybody moving along as we go. And with that, we'll,
Just a second.
oh, 1 second.
Okay, so the way this is going to work is there'll be approximately 50 minutes for an interview for each of the candidates, and then we'll take a 10-minute break so that you can write some notes for yourself and or use the restroom or get a drink of water or whatever you need to do in between. So we will take a short break in between each candidate for you. I did include a sheet that you can use for each, there's one for each candidate that you can write some notes on and do some stuff like that. So those are, I put those on your desk along with the agenda. And then after that, we'll do citizen communications, and then we'll have a discussion period where you guys can openly discuss your feelings and ask any questions of each other, like, how did you feel about this? How did you feel about that? If there's any candidates that you want to ask to come back for a second interview, we can pass a resolution to do that tonight before you leave. I would think that you would probably want to have a couple of days to really think about this before we made any decisions to offer an actual job, especially in view of the fact that you may want to re-interview a couple of these people. So we can always put on the agenda for the 22nd a resolution to offer someone a position. You don't have to rush to do that this evening is all I'm saying, okay?
No, but we are going to, like she said, we are going to discuss tonight who we would like to talk to again, and if we want to, just because there's a bit of a time to the next meeting. So we don't have to make a rush decision on who we're hiring, but we do want to who we're going to keep talking to.
Okay?
Okay?
Okay. So do you want to introduce Kristen?
Okay, so Kristen, you want to introduce our first candidate and get us underway.
Hello, I'm Kristen Kruger from Amy Cell Talent.
Could you please talk in the microphone because we're on camera? And
Very good, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm Kristen Kruger from Amy Cell Talent. We were the search firm that was selected from the proposal to conduct this search. So we've gone through a very thorough process and are pleased to present the final 4 candidates for your consideration this evening. And our first candidate is Dave Schaeffer.
Evening, Dave. Could you give us a little introduction of yourself and let us know what we are?
Sure. So, I'm sure you have my resume in front of you, about 18 and a half years of local government, municipal experience. My first job out of college, I worked for the Ohio Auditor of State's office, and it's a little different in Ohio where it's not Plant Moran that comes in and audits the financial statements. In Ohio, when I left, there were about 600 financial auditors that were employed by the Auditor of State's office. We had 618 school districts, 88 counties, over 240 cities, and all the state agencies, and the Auditor of State audited the municipal entities. The financial auditors were the ones that really kind of produce the deficits as far as cities or entities that were in fiscal distress. I was in the performance audit section, so once the entity was in fiscal distress, my team came in to be able to evaluate the government entity and make recommendations as far as revenue enhancements or expenditure reductions to be able to get out of the red and back into the black. And so I did that for 7.5 years. If I want to set myself apart from some of these other candidates that you're going to look at and speak to tonight, I've seen over 40 government entities and why they were in fiscal distress. I had to analyze and make recommendations. I've been speaking to city councils, school boards, county councils since I was about 22 years old, standing at the podium, delivering the message as far as what needs to happen for financial recovery. And so I did that for 7.5 years, and my last couple performance audits were for Cuyahoga County. And what I explained to the staff is after Cook County, Illinois, I'd say Cuyahoga County is probably the second most corrupt government organization in the United States. I had to do a performance audit of the Cuyahoga County Recorder, the Cuyahoga County Auditor. The FBI actually raided Cuyahoga County in 2008. Their headquarters. There's a commissioner doing 28 years in jail. There was another county auditor, did 22 years in jail. It was a mess. Dozens of contractors went to jail. And so I worked in the fiscal office. The citizens were so angry about the corruption in the government, they actually did a charter form of government, changed the form of government from 3 commissioners to 11 county council members with a separately elected county executive. And they took away some of the elected offices and formed the fiscal officer, and that's who I worked for. I worked for the first fiscal officer for Cuyahoga County, and I actually helped with that government reformation, helped create the audit committee. And so there's an internal audit function within Cuyahoga County. I helped charter that. Went from the county to the city of Brooklyn. And the next time you go to buy a greeting card and you look at the back and there's a rose, that's American Greetings. American Greetings was headquartered in the city of Brooklyn. And they were lured 5 miles west to Westlake, Ohio for economic development incentives. And so that was a $200 million payroll that went out of Brooklyn. That translated to $5 million left the general fund overnight. And that was a real problem. That was a third of the general fund. And the finance director quit and said, I'm not dealing with this. He retired. And that job sat open for 8 months, and I took on the finance director position. And when I walked into Brooklyn, Ohio, there were 5 union contracts that were already expired a year, and it was kind of a mess. And you know, I can kind of go into detail as much as you want, but I got a list of revenue enhancements, expenditure reductions that totaled $1,069,000. There were other potential revenue enhancements that were discussed for $1.3 million, and those were kind of fallback scenarios. We didn't really know actually how much revenue was going to be lost, and we had contingency plans as far as what needed to happen with the city departments so that we could, you know, continue to operate the government. I went from the finance director of the city of Brooklyn to the charter township of Oscoda Township. And Oscoda Township was still is, a charter township that is desperately trying to provide city-level service. They have a full-time police department, and we were able to make headway with the several economic development initiatives in Oscoda Township. I'm very proud of my service there. And currently at the James Island Public Service District. And so it's a different type of government. We do fire, sewer, and trash. And I have been there for a little over almost 3.5 years now. And I've be able to go into any kind of examples you want as far as strengthening financials, shoring up the operations. We are doing better, and if you have some specific questions about any of those roles, all 18 years plus in municipal, local government, trying to maximize taxpayer dollars, looking for operational efficiencies and program effectiveness and strengthening the finances of local government entities.
Okay, and in order to keep into the 40-minute budget that we have, we're going to stick to the questions that we have, and then there may be secondary questions after those.
Sure.
All right, so that's why we're going the way we're going. I'm Mike Higgins, Mayor, so you know, and I will ask the first question. What experience do you have with recycling programs, and how would you like to increase resident recycling in Lincoln Park?
So recycling programs, right now in James Island, we have Swiss cheese as far as the solid waste pickup. The county does the recycling. I have never overseen municipal recycling. That's always been a contracted, outsourced contract for recycling. Basically, you're going to set that up very similar to a solid waste contracting, where it is a price per household to be able to provide that service, and they have to be able to have guarantees as far as service and when they're going to be able to pick up that trash. But I have never overseen the recycling operations of an entity.
Just so you know, we do have that. We need to find a way to get our residents to be more encouraged using it. Next question will come from the city clerk.
Okay, if you're appointed city manager, what's your plan for the first 180 days?
I kind of explained that to the staff, and to be very brief, I would come in, I would take it all in, and try to understand the departments. Before I had something to say, I would learn from the different departments how they're providing the service, and use my prior experience to understand if there are areas for operational efficiency, program effectiveness. But I had a very bad boss one time, came in and said, everything's going to change. I don't know how it's going to change, but it's all going to be different. And that kind of instilled fear and mistrust. And, I want to be able to work with the department heads to understand what it is that, their current initiatives, and try to understand how those are baked into the appropriations and reported to city council before understanding how anything's going to change.
Okay, next question will be Councilwoman Tracy Dupre.
What are some of the challenges you've had over your career?
Some of the challenges, when you have much less revenue and you still need to be able to provide city-level services, that can be very difficult. You have to be able to understand what those core services are and prioritize and adapt. I've seen challenges at the county level, at the city level. Some of the revenue reductions are really outside of the control of the municipal entity. Sometimes the state changes the formula on how you receive revenue. That's a very, difficult issue when there's 618 school districts and there's scarce resources, and all of a sudden the formula says you get 20% less revenue. You have to adapt and overcome, and you have to build consensus with the governing body that, okay, this is what's going to change, and this is why, and this is what we have to adapt to.
Councilman Maureen Trobin.
Hi. Do you have any experience bringing contracted services in-house? And if so, what was the situation, and were you able to recognize cost savings by doing that?
Yeah, so the contracted services, most recently would be solid waste services at the city of Brooklyn. And when you contract with Republic or Waste Management or any of those companies, they will gladly buy your trucks. They will pay you top dollar for them because they never want you to get back into that business and incentivize you to never get back into that business. And unfortunately, the city experienced, they'll give you a real good honeymoon period for a year. And after that, if there's missed pickups, we'll be there when we be there and, click. And the customer service wasn't there. And so we had to put a plan together to be able to slowly take back the solid waste. It wasn't an all at once, but it was a gradual over a 3-year period to bring that back in-house. And we were able to do it for less than what the contract was.
Councilwoman Lillian Ross?
Mr. Schaeffer, tell us about your experience in preparing and managing budgets, and what do you think are the keys to successfully managing a budget in the public sector?
All right, so that's one of my strengths. I've been looking at budgets since 2005. So when an entity was in fiscal distress, we would have to offer revenue enhancement options or recommendations for expenditure reduction. And so in Ohio, it was a little different. If, say, City Council didn't implement those and get back into the black, in Ohio, it's illegal to go bankrupt. The governor would appoint an entity, a representative, the senator, the House rep, and basically City Council would lose its power financially. And so that new council made all the financial decisions until the entity got out of fiscal emergency. So I was used to walking into an entity, and it was critical mass. There were going to have to be changes. And so I went from that to the Cuyahoga County Fiscal Office, where I managed my budget was about $6 million. I had 62 employees that were spread out between 5 different offices. So I administered that budget on an annual basis to run those offices. In the city of Brooklyn, that's a much larger, 18 million annual budget, 30 different funds. You had about 5 major funds and then 30 total funds. Had to put those appropriations together. Overall, the operating budgets don't change that much. There's inflationary increases associated with that. It comes down to the capital improvements. What are the major projects that are going on? How do you fund those? What are the different sources of funding? Can you get grants? How do you make those major improvements happen? And so I went through the process August through December of 2022 with the James Island Public Service District. We have 6 overarching strategic goals. We have strategic initiatives that support those goals. And every year we rank and prioritize those between staff. We try to get input from the community and then the governing body. And so you'll see a column. This is the goal. This is the initiative. In there, you then have, this is the cost to do that. Because if you don't bake that into the appropriations, you're not going to be able to do the initiative. And then you have the line, just like you have from your budget. Here's where that's baked into the appropriations. And then every other month, we give an update. Hey, this is what's going on in these projects. This is what's completed. This is what's changed, this is why, and provide the governing body ongoing updates on those specific strategic initiatives, because that's what really drives the appropriations.
Councilman Jason Beer?
Hi. This position requires you to respond to many requests in a short period of time. How do you ensure promptness, accuracy, and courtesy under these conditions?
Yep, so this is kind of a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365. I'm used to that. During office hours, say 8 to 4, all right? If there is something that needs to be addressed right now, and I explain to senior staff, I would imagine you come walk in my office and say, Dave, we got an issue. We got to, take care of this. If I'm already in a meeting, I would expect a text message, like, when you get out of your meeting, please, we got to talk, please come find me. And if it's, say, less pressing, then it's got to be taken care of in 2 hours. I would expect an email from staff. Hey, this is the issue. A lot of the time, I would tell you in Oscoda Township, it was never Groundhog's Day. I never knew who was coming in to make issue with what. It was, here we go, let's have a conversation. A lot of the times during the council meetings, public comment, that's my laundry list of what to do outside of my normal job to follow up with who, right? Or direct them towards resolution. But, I get phone calls, I get emails every day from citizens. Those are priority. We've got to be able to understand the pressing need, and if I can't take care of it, be able to delegate it to somebody to get them a response as soon as possible.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Eric Zor.
When you become a city manager, how will you go about getting to know the community and building relationships with the stakeholders? And who are those stakeholders in the businesses?
Well, I'd be meeting with you, obviously, and I would want to know who you know that I need to know. Because I don't know the community yet. I can tell you I am in the James Island Exchange Club. I am in the West Ashley Rotary Club. There are other city councilmen, county councilmen, other members of public service districts that I've met through those service entities. I would also definitely, those service clubs often work with impactful nonprofits within the community. We're doing a team building event next week. The James Island Public Service District at Fire Station 1, we're working with James Island Outreach, which is they do a food pantry, and we're going to be doing a team building exercise to be able to pack the personal hygiene kits so that next time that they do a food pantry, they'll have donated personal hygiene kits to get out with those. My father was a Lutheran pastor for 40 years. He was a Rotarian, so that basically made my older brother and I free labor for the service projects. So I am used to carrying cases of fruit for the holiday citrus sale, making root beer floats, and making funnel cakes at the block parties. I get involved like that. But doing those service clubs, doing the nonprofits that are impactful within the community, getting to know those people and asking them, who do you know that I need to know, helps build those types of connections.
How would you describe your personality, and how do those qualities help you in public service as a leader?
So I'm pretty positive. I'm an optimist. I am pretty even-keeled. I'm used to being able to stand and deliver a message, even if it's not a popular message. It needs to get delivered. That's helped me throughout my public service career. I'm not a yeller and a screamer. That's not how I get things done. I would envision being able to work with the senior staff very well to understand, what needs to be addressed, and prioritizing, coming up with very convincing arguments with the to be presented to the city council, so that you understand the importance of where we're putting the money and what could happen if we don't, and explaining the different options thoroughly. But I'm analytical. I get that from working at the Auditor of State's office. I'm naturally task-oriented, and I am hands-on. So that's how I would describe my personality.
All right, we'll go to the city clerk.
Okay. How would you prioritize the activities of the city staff?
So I got a tour with the fire chief and the police chief, had over a half a century of institutional knowledge taking me around. There are a lot of employees that kind of understand what they're doing, you know? I need to be able to prioritize what are the initiatives that are coming up, how to build consensus with city council to be able to move those departments forward and provide the services to the citizens. We're not going to be able to do everything all at once. That's just, they're scarce resources. You have to be able to prioritize. I used a method where I gave 20 strategic initiatives to their 7 commissioners of the James Island Public Service District. I asked them to rank and prioritize. Give me your top 10. And then I had a ranking system to be able to produce back. This is what you say. You know, here's the top rank. The number 1 initiative that we're baking into the budget for next year is a new fuel tank, because my head mechanic's been there over 25 years, and the fuel tank's older than him. And so a sewage spill is bad. A spill of fuel is even worse. And so, we have to plan ahead to be able to prioritize the scarce resources we have to be able to improve the operations, invest back into the equipment.
Councilman Dupre.
What are your thoughts and ideas about attracting and retaining talent?
I would love for you to go on to the James Island Public Service District Facebook page. And on there, you're going to see a story. It's an employee spotlight of my lead mechanic, Mr. James Reindaler. He's from James Island. He's been working with the district for 15 years and talks about why he likes working for the James Island Public Service District and what his typical day is. And we've done that with the fire department. We've done that with the wastewater department. We've done that with the admin department and customer service. And we put it out there, kind of what sets James Island Public Service District apart from other jobs that you're looking for, why it's a good place to work there, and highlight that. So that is, we do that when we're posting for positions, and so far that's been as far as 40 likes on the JIPSD Facebook page. That's our equivalent of going viral. So he got 40 likes out there. You know, we're picking up traction, and people are noticing what we're putting out there.
Councilman Tobin.
What are trends in local government that could impact Lincoln Park?
Well, I read through your financials. So within there, obviously, after property taxes, the state revenue and the sharing of that is, the next largest revenue source. And that's why I mentioned before, if there's changes to that formula, that could be impactful, right? You always have to have a contingency plan for that. Some of the trends, I looked on the social media. I would want to be able to improve some of the social media communications out there. Maybe do a couple things with the website out there, be able to proactively communicate with the citizens. I was explaining to the senior staff, I call it the STP, the same 10 people. We can have community engagement sessions and, put it in the paper, put it on social media, put it on our website, signs all over the place. A lot of the time you're going to get those same 10 people to show up because they're passionate about the community. They want to see the community improve. We got to come up with different ways to engage the citizens, moving forward, get input from them.
Lillian Ross.
How do you clearly convey your staff's recommendations and rationale to council?
Well, a lot of the time, my experience was with the budget, is you got kind of one crack at the apple per year. We start the process. I had they call it the Ways and Means Committee meeting, and that's the budget discussion. So we started that, my fiscal year is the 1st of July through June 30th. We had our first Ways and Means Committee meeting for fiscal year 25, meaning the appropriations that were to be established for the 1st of July, 2025. We had our first one in November because they don't want extra meetings in December and January. I get it, it's the holidays. And then we kick it right back up again and have meetings in February, March, and April so that That's when the senior staff, they're coming in front of council or the commission, and the commission has ranked and prioritized what they want to see baked into the budget for those initiatives. The staff also has communicated, and we try to get engagement from the public, but it's tough. And so we are able to show, here are the goals, here are the strategic initiatives that support each one of those 6 goals, here's what it costs, here's where you find that in the appropriations. The BS&A line that you're going to see on the ledger when we give you the budget, so that if you have any questions about wherever this is, you can go find it in the raw data, and then we're going to give you a narrative as far as the capital items.
Okay, next up, it's Jason Burr.
What types of community and economic development projects have you worked on in the past, and what were the outcomes that were brought about?
All right, so we had our Sears building in Brooklyn, and it was the American Greetings campus. Okay, $200 million payroll is a sprawling office facility that we needed to fill. So again, in Ohio, it's a little different, and I worked with the mayor. I worked with we had an economic development director, and we started filling space within the American Greetings office space. So one of the major employers, Medical Mutual, was an insurance billing company, and they were downtown Cleveland. They were paying primo rent right next to Progressive Field, where their employees had to park, and we lured them through economic development incentives to start filling the American Greetings facility. That was the office space in the same facility, the manufacturing environment. There was a company, instead of having oxygen tanks, it is a machine, it's built by Inogen, that continuously makes oxygen for you, and you carry it over. They're in Brooklyn, Ohio. They're in the American Greetings space. We lured them. So I could abate and come up with incentives as far as income tax, property tax, and in certain situations, we could help give the schools money away on property tax as well. And so we had to be able to help lure entities out of state, in state, to be able to help fill up that American Greetings facility. I also, in Oscoda Township, so Oscoda Township, in 1993, the U.S. Air Force Fort Smith base closed, and Oscoda Township's population went from 15,000 to 7,000, right? And it was very challenging in the downtown area. And as part of the strategic planning process, we pursued the MEDC's Redevelopment Ready Community Certifications, and part of that was to put together an economic improvement plan, and specifically a downtown improvement plan. I can tell you, in February, you can book a hotel at the Holiday Inn Express right behind the Oscoda Beach Park. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Oscoda Beach Park. Right behind, there was one piece of property. He was the holdout. We had to negotiate. Then we had to rezone to residential tourist, which was an act of Congress. And then we had to lure the hotel. And I've been at that since 2019. And in February of 2024, you'll be able to book a room at the Holiday Inn Express right behind the Oscoda Beach Park, and I'm going to tell you, a 90-room hotel that is walkable to all the other businesses downtown is definitely going to help out.
Thank you.
Councilman Eric Zor.
How do you handle public criticism?
It's part of the job. You give them 5 minutes, we get 3. We give them 3 minutes. I thought 3 minutes was generous. But it's every meeting, and as I mentioned, I mean, that's the laundry list of what I got to follow up with. It's just how it goes. I mean, when I was at Oscoda Township, like I said, nobody is coming in demanding to speak to the township superintendent and want to shake his hand and say, you're doing a great job, okay? That doesn't happen. So when there is an issue, they want resolution, and they want it immediately. And a lot of the time, you need to listen, okay, and try to understand what is the issue. Yes, they're angry, but what is the actual issue, and how do you go about getting resolution? A lot of the time, it's frustration. You know, if the ordinance says this and they don't like it and that's the answer, they're coming to the podium. They want change. They want to see it different. And you know, I have thick skin. It's part of this. You know, I know. I have been at this long enough. I am never going to make 7 members of city council happy 100% of the time. That's not realistic. But we can build towards consensus, and we can, you know, analyze options and come to a plan to move forward. But public criticism is just part of it. You're never going to make your citizens completely happy. It's just not in the cards.
Can you describe a situation where you needed to understand multiple perspectives and how you were able to achieve that goal?
Understand multiple perspectives. So,
Several people coming to you with different sides of a story, and you had to figure out how to solve it.
yeah, I mean, if we can all get together and talk, I'll put up some pros and cons on a whiteboard. Let's go down the list. A lot of the time, if it's about how to serve the constituency, you're going to want to ask the constituency. But being able to speak in a group format, I mean, you can do it one-on-one, try to ferret that out. But what you're gonna want to come to is not only this is the decision, but be able to explain rationale as to why, justification, and a plan to move forward.
City Clerk?
What is your decision-making process?
So, my decision-making process, I have learned it is not good to make decisions quickly. And, you know, we're talking about material decisions here. You're going to want to be able to investigate options. You're going to want to be able to put the dollars to that, and be able to provide rationale, justification as to what's going to happen with your plan and what's going to happen if you don't do it.
Okay, Councilman Dupree?
How would you describe your management style?
So my management style, I'm analytical. If you ask some of my subordinates, they'll tell you I'm task-oriented. I usually, you know, I got a whiteboard going in my office and what's going on in the different departments. My management style is about what does the policy say? What does the union contract say? Because management is about the rules and the procedures and what happened last time. You know, if you want to talk about my leadership style, I'm a servant leader. I try not to ask my staff to do something I wouldn't do. And leadership is about being able to get people to follow you up the hill and put the plan together and give them the big picture. And I have been successful at that, to be able to translate a governing body's vision into operational results.
And Maureen Tobin?
Describe a time when a project did not go as planned, and what was the course of action that you looked to remedy that?
Oh, man. So, let me try to think of a positive example. All right, so Oscoda Township. We had this humongous air base, and we have a runway that is 10,600 feet long. It's huge. Took them 4 years to pour it because it takes a lot of effort to get a B-52 bomber down and up. And so we participated in, it was the MAMA, the Michigan Aeronautical Manufacturing Association. And Oscoda was designated as the spaceport for horizontal launch. So they would, underbelly and underwing, retrofit aircraft to be able to launch satellites into lower Earth orbit. And why that was so good is because of the restricted airspace with the air base. They could get the aircraft, like a 747, up 35,000 feet over restricted airspace on Lake Huron, and that kind of acts as the first stage of the rocket, and then it deploys and goes up. And we got to go to Cape Canaveral and try to study other communities that were designated as a potential spaceport, and we put a lot of time and effort into that. There is no spaceport in Oscoda Township, but man, it was an exciting ride while we were trying to figure out how we could lure businesses to be able to get into that space of launching satellites at lower Earth orbit. Lesson learned.
Okay, you want to wrap up? Give us your feelings on things and how why you want to be here.
Well, I want to be here if I drove from Charleston through a thunderstorm, had the wipers on through Virginia to get here. I got here. I recognize that Lincoln Park has opportunities. I would liken Lincoln Park to a larger version of the city of Brooklyn. And I know how to be able to analyze the government operations. I know how to be able to work with the department heads. And I know how to be able to put a plan together to build consensus within the city of Lincoln Park. It's going to be focused on public safety and infrastructure. And, we can do a little bit better with community engagement, with communications and a communication strategy. There's a lot of opportunity to be able to, enhance the city and city-level services. And I want to be able to have the opportunity to work with council, work with senior staff, and put a plan together. I, again, want to reiterate the difference between myself and maybe some of these other candidates you're going to talk with. I have seen how governments have gone backwards in 40 different entities. And within those entities, we had to be able to do peer comparisons, meaning I had to get data from other similar communities to analyze those 40 communities. So typically there were at least 3 peer entities that we compared against. And I have seen government dysfunction for many different reasons. And I had a senior audit manager, very wise man, that we were analyzing the city of Mansfield, and this is the first time I worked for him. And we interviewed all the city council, we interviewed the mayor, all the administration, and after we got done, he said, "Dave, who runs the city?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, the mayor runs the city." He's like, "No, Dave, who runs the city?" And in that particular case, it was the police chief. The police chief ran the city. And so I have seen the law director run a city. I've seen a finance director run a city. I've seen the mayor run the city. I've seen president of council run a city. I have seen many different cases as to why governments weren't working, and I've had to give them a plan to function better. And I believe that I could be able to work with city council and senior staff to do just that and communicate. And, I think you understand I want this job. Drove a long way to be here and be in front of you. And I thank you for the opportunity that you ranked me high enough to come have an interview and speak with you. I like to say, I don't have an MPA. I'm sure some of these people that you're going to speak with have an MPA. I have the equivalent of a doctorate in messed up governments. And I've seen what not to do. I've learned government by seeing what not to do and what happens if you go down the wrong rabbit hole. And so I can give you numerous examples. If you want to talk again, I can give you numerous examples of what was wrong and what we did differently and what happened. I enjoy what I do as a municipal executive. I believe I was put here to serve as a municipal executive. It's in my blood for community service and serving residents. And if you want to have another interview, I can go into more detail of how I've made that happen.
Thank you very much for being here, and if you'd like to leave the information that you said you had for us, that you showed us, you can leave it up here, then we can share it with each other. And thank you, good luck. And as a fellow Rotarian, thanks for being here.
I'll give you, this was rough one for a temporary budget that we had to go through.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for coming here.
To lovely Michigan from South Carolina. Now we're going backwards.
Anybody would like to see this?